Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Kansas City jazz saxophonist Rich Wheeler. We caught up with him following a triumphant live Kansas City show underground with the Ensemble Iberica. His power and reach on the saxophone was huge that night, and it has resounded throughout his career. Originally from Arkansas, he has called Kansas City home for quite some time. He opened up about this and so much more. Enjoy his story.
Hey, Rich, it's Joe Domino with Neon Jazz Radio.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, just riding out the pandemic like everybody else.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, I tell you, it really has been for the last, 6 months or whatever. It's just been a real, especially being a, full-time musician, it's been a very weird time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine, how hard this has to be when this is your, there's the income part, but there's also just that, this is your life. This is what you do. I know doing this as long as I have, it's a pleasure. There's a self-edification that's very healthy that needs to happen in this process, and it's just all gone,
It really is. It's very odd. I've been doing this for 25 years, and honestly, in that time, I think the longest break that I ever had was about 2 weeks. And so, I didn't play a gig for like 4.5 months during the beginning of this, and it was just very weird. You get so used to having like you were saying, kind of your life and the things that you just sort of take for granted as far as working, playing, all that, and suddenly it's just kind of all gone for a completely unforeseen circumstance. At least for me, there were a lot of things that I could sort of see happening in my career that might have gotten, made things go sideways that I never saw this coming.
Yeah, no one did, and that's the thing that's so strange about it. But the other night, seeing you play and being in that kind of unique, as Bo said, kind of Mad Max scenario of being underground and having all of that sound ricochet around, that had to feel good to be back on stage.
I definitely did, and not only that, but back and playing stuff at a high level with with really good musicians, which that's always the fun part, and that's a great group, and I kind of resonated a little bit with what he was saying as far as that goes, though, because I think lately here when we have all played, which has been pretty rare, but I think we sort of had to get used to the new. I hate to call it the new normal because I know this is all temporary, but the normal for the moment anyway, which is just very different situations,
Yeah, it's very bizarre. Well, thanks for taking a minute out. You've been on my radar quite a bit. I know my wife, when I had the show, she was asking where we saw you play before, and I know I've seen you a handful of times playing different incarnations of things. So it's great to catch up. And so your path began in Arkansas. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how music became your life.
Yeah, I did. My family is all from Arkansas, and I grew up in a real small town in Arkansas called Heber Springs, which is sort of north-central Arkansas. And, I always enjoyed, when I was a kid, I enjoyed music, and I listened to a lot of music. I will openly say that it probably was not until I was considerably older that I had any thoughts of it becoming kind of, a career or anything like that. But, I can remember being a kid and hearing a lot of, I guess you'd call it folk music, in the Ozarks, that sort of thing. And then also hearing a lot of blues and R&B. My grandmother lived in Memphis, and we used to go over there pretty regularly, and we would hear live music over there as well. And I started playing. I guess I was probably like 12 years old, something along those lines, and started playing saxophone. And not too long after that, when I was in my early teens, for a while, my family ended up living here in Kansas City. And that's kind of where the interest really took off for me. I was lucky enough at the time to take lessons with, I don't know if you know Doug Talley.
Yeah.
He's a super, excellent tenor player here in town. And when I was in high school, I was lucky enough to take lessons with Doug and really kind of, spark the interest from there. And then I went to college. I went to KU and, studied music. Got really involved in live playing. And when that was over with, the obvious choice was to come back here. I had a lot of contacts in Kansas City. And come back here and get to playing. And that's, that's kind of what I did for the last, I moved, I was gone for a little while, but I moved back to town. I think it's 2000 when I moved back to Kansas City. And so I've kind of been here ever since. Like I say, playing professionally and freelancing a bunch. And I also try to teach a lot. So especially as I've gotten older, I've really gotten into that. Like, I really enjoy teaching. And that's kind of been my life, for my entire professional career, is doing those kinds of things. And being involved in the music scene around here. And, just trying to do good stuff. I think that probably describes it as well as anything else I can say about my own interest in playing. I try to be involved with things that I really like. And I've been lucky enough to kind of be involved with things that I do really like, and also just people that I really have a lot of respect for and really like what they do. That's kind of where I'm at career-wise, I suppose, and how it all began for me.
So what about when you started listening to jazz? What musicians were you listening to that were influential on you?
Oh, man, probably the first one for me was Dexter Gordon. I got a copy of Our Man in Paris that it was a CD copy of it, and I literally wore the CD out. So, I was a huge Dexter Gordon fan when I first started playing. Also, Coleman Hawkins, for sure. And then after those two guys, really Joe Henderson was probably like the next biggest influence for me. And then when I got a little bit older and started exploring new things, I got way into like Jan Garbarek and Michael Brecker and some of the more modern guys. But those guys were the initial guys. Probably Dexter Gordon, Coleman Hawkins, Joe Henderson. I listened to everything I could find for years. Still do, really, of those guys. Huge influences. Some of the real kind of titans of tenor.
So what about your first live show that you saw? What was that like? Who was it, and what was that like?
What do you mean, like first live jazz show? Or
first live. Yeah, like where you saw the show and thought, man, that's something I'd like to do, or it just blew your doors down.
Man, I'd have to think about that for a minute. It probably would have been, believe it or not, someone locally here in Kansas City, because that probably would have been the first time I was really exposed to like live jazz. Where I grew up, real small town. There obviously was not any live music of any kind, really. Little bits here and there, but there certainly wasn't any jazz. I think one of the first people that I saw really do it at a high level around here probably would have been Doug Talley. And I can remember going to see him somewhere here locally and really being like kind of super enthralled about it. And then I do remember, this would have been like probably like the early 90s at some point, back when I can't even remember the name of the festival. They used to still do like I think it was just the Kansas City Jazz Festival at that point. And Pat Metheny was there. And I remember being like really, really interested in that. I don't even remember who all was in the band. I didn't know at the time, but it was just super impressive, and the music was, just otherworldly good. And man, at that point, I really kind of gotten into playing a little bit, and that kind of sparked things off for me. And I've had a lot of experiences since then that just kind of reinforced that. But those were probably the first ones.
So, what do you like the best about Kansas City?
Well, there's a lot of things I like. For one thing, it's the level of play here is among the musicians is really high. For one thing, which as a musician makes things a lot of fun. There are people doing a lot of different kinds of music at a very, very high level. And so you have sort of access to all kinds of different people that do different things. They do them really well. In addition to that, I think the music community here gets along better than it does in some other places. Everybody here pretty much gets along. Everybody's real supportive, interested in helping. If you've got an idea and you want to try and make something happen. It's also just a very livable city. I just like everybody, I told you going to New York at one point, and you start looking though at like what your life's going to be like and like how expensive it is and everything else, and we have it really good here. I can afford to have an apartment of my own here. And I can get by living the way that I want to live here. But mostly it's the people. I've got a lot of friends here and a lot of like really good musical connections here. And for me, that's what it's all about. Finding people that you really like that are really super capable musicians and being able to do stuff with them, which we have the luxury of doing here. And I think, like I say, I think in a lot of ways the scene here is as healthy as it is anywhere in the country. Pretty much any instrument you can name 2 or 3 people who are absolutely excellent at what they do. And again, it's a very diverse scene too. There's everything going on from sort of old style Kansas City swing to very, very modern stuff. And it, kind of anything you want, it's here if you know where to look.
So, what do you like the best about being a musician?
Well, I like working for myself, for one thing. Mm-hmm. And I've always enjoyed that. What do I like best about it? That's actually an excellent question. I like the kind of the freedom to be able to do and work in whatever way I want to, if that makes sense. I enjoy the fact that it's not sort of the regular kind of 9 to 5 working for someone else doing whatever they want sort of thing. I mostly enjoy working with the people I get to work with. They're all my friends for one thing, which makes it a lot more fun from a work environment standpoint. And I also get to work with people that I have a lot of respect for, that I think are super talented, and that I don't know that there's that many work environments that would be the case. It's everybody that's involved is an amazing person and super talented and good at what they do and motivated, and that makes it a really fun work environment as far as I'm concerned. I've had other jobs, I think pretty much any musician you talk to has at some point in time done something else for a while, and I've done that too. It didn't go all that well, to be perfectly honest. But I think at this point in my life, I don't think I would want to do anything else. You know, I enjoy what I get to do, and I enjoy the people I get to do it with. And yeah, I mean, it's not without its, not without its sort of issues. And it's a difficult business, especially these days. There's when you're working for yourself like that. You have to generate income because we all have to have income to live, and things can get difficult as far as that goes. But I wouldn't trade it for anything at the moment.
When we do return, full force to the stage and to the crowd, what do you hope both musician and audience realizes about this time away from live jazz?
I hope everybody sort of realizes, from the musician side and the audience side, I hope everybody realizes how lucky we all are to have it. I think it's real easy to take stuff like that for granted. Like we were talking about a minute ago, there's always something going on in this town, right? Music-wise. Well, the last few months there hasn't been, because it just hasn't been possible. And I hope anyways that kind of like shines a light on the fact for everyone that don't take it for granted. It's a privilege to get to play and a privilege to get to hear it, and I think everybody does kind of realize that more now than before, because it wasn't there. And I think that's probably what is going to be the biggest takeaway for most people. Is just how lucky we are to have the opportunity to do stuff like that. I know for my own part, that's what I'll take away from it. It's having several months to just sit on my hands and not do anything. I miss it for sure. And now that I'm we're playing a few things now, trying to. And I think we'll be able to do that till the weather turns cold. And I'm definitely going to, sort of savor every minute of that. And I hope everyone that gets to hear those things does too,
My final question to you is this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're living your life. Who do you think you are?
Ooh, man. You save the deep one for last, huh? Well, who do I think I am? Any given day, I guess I might probably give a different answer. I guess what I would say as far as that goes is I'm just somebody who's trying to do the best, get up in the morning, put some work in, see what comes out the other side. I think, I think most people would say that I work at it pretty hard, and I do, and I hope that people think that anyway. I think I'm someone who, I don't know. I think, let's say, I think I described it pretty well a second ago. I think the best thing I can say there is I'm just someone who's out there trying to do their best, and do some good work and do some stuff people might want to hear, and have a good time doing it, hopefully. And I guess that kind of covers it. That's kind of a roundabout answer to that question, I suppose. But I think that's probably the best I can do without thinking about it for a day and a half.
Yeah, that's a great answer, man. Rich, this has been great, man. Thank you for taking some time out, and I look forward to seeing you when Kansas City gets back to full force.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Arkansas, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Rich for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.